Hi guys, Sierra here from Flora Fantastica. Today I wanted to show you how to make your own tropical terrarium. We're going to discuss different types of terrariums and the materials used, and then I'll walk you through how to make your own. Lately, I've been getting really inspired by walking through the forests of Oakland. It's not really the ideal time because it's summertime, so things are really dry. But I was still able to find a lot of mosses, some twigs, some rocks, and I also harvested a little bit of dirt. On a recent hike through a redwood forest with a little creek running through it, very nice hike, I harvested a good amount of plants as well as the rocks, sticks, and dirt. But it wasn't quite enough, and my kids really wanted to make terrariums too, so I decided to go to a local nursery, pick up a few more plants, and then hope that we'd have enough for building at least a few terrariums. First thing I did when I got back from the hike was to soak all of the live materials that I had gathered from the hike in a bucket of water. I had found some ferns and some moss attached to rocks. I put all these in a bucket or a little basin and let it sit for the few days while I was waiting to get the rest of my materials for the terrariums. This is a great way to rehydrate your moss, especially if it's really dry and kind of dormant like it was for me. The only thing is that if you leave it for more than a couple days, it's gonna get gross. So I think I might have left mine for a little bit too long. It started getting that smell, but just rinsing the water and cleaning it out seemed fine. The last thing I did to some of the materials that I collected was to just clean off the rocks, make sure I could kind of see the colors underneath. They were really dusty from the dirt on the hike. Some of the sticks were a little dirty too, so I just kind of washed everything off and prepared it for the terrarium. So some of the materials for the base layer of the terrarium, some examples are volcanic rock, pebbles, rocks I collected on the hike, charcoal, and sand. Today I'm going to be using volcanic rock because that's what I had on hand. Before adding the volcanic rock, I'm going to clean off the entire terrarium with a microfiber cloth. This is me doing it very fast. I am very fast at everything. Next, I'm gonna start adding the volcanic rock, and you're gonna wanna add about 1 inch to 2 inches, depending on how big your terrarium is here. I added too much, so I took some out, then I add a little back, then I came out with about 1 inch to 1.5 inches for this terrarium. Next, we're gonna be creating the barrier between the drainage layer and the substrate layer. You don't really want them mixing together, so you want something to keep them separate. Here I have peat moss, mesh from an old window screen, not metal, and also a plastic bag with holes in it. Any of these things will work. I think that the mesh from the window screen is the best. All right, so here I'm gonna be cutting out the mesh to the size that I want, and I'm gonna pick a size that's a little bit larger than the area that I'm working with. I kind of want it to curl up on the edges a little bit. I'm gonna be placing it down. Okay, didn't fit, gonna cut it again. Make it a little smaller, fit it in again. Then I'm gonna place a few rocks on top to kind of hold it down before I am going to add my next level. All right, so I've got my rocks holding it down. I'm gonna add a little bit of charcoal. This is an optional step, but charcoal helps with water filtration, keeps it smelling nice, keeps the pH at a good pH for the plants. So I like to add it. Next thing is soil. We're gonna add the substrate or the soil on top of the charcoal. All right, next we have the substrate or the soil. I'm showing a couple different mixtures here. One is for succulents and one is for more tropical plants. Today we're gonna use the tropical plant mix because that's what we're doing. All right, so here I am adding the sphagnum moss tropical mix. And as usual, I'm doing it very fast and adding and still adding, trying to get a nice layer in there. The sphagnum moss layer or the substrate layer should be at least twice as large as the drainage layer. So right here I have about an inch of drainage layer, it looks like, and about 2 inches of substrate. At least that's what I'm going for. So after the substrate is finished, we're going to add our hardscape materials, which include branches and sticks, stones. Here are some that I've collected. And also we can add hardscape materials that have moss growing on them or lichen growing on them. Next, I'm going to be building with my hardscape materials. Mostly I was using rocks in this terrarium, a few sticks as well, smaller ones. I'm going to be starting by a focal point, which is usually like the largest stone or largest stick in the terrarium. And then after that, working around the largest piece. After that, I'm going to be adding a few of the mosses and rocks with mosses that I had found. And this is what it looks like so far. So after you've finished your hardscaping, you're going to move on to adding your plants. These are best to add at the end, kind of accent things. This is where your pops of color are going to come out. Obviously, for a succulent terrarium, you're going to add succulents. For a more tropical one, you're going to add plants that like a lot more water. So I'm trying out a few plants, still adding some mosses, and deciding what kind of looks best in this situation. So at this point, I've got some mosses and a little tiny oak leaf ivy. And I'm going to add a few more plants, just kind of playing around to see what looks good. I've got a Ming Aurelia, which is this little plant that kind of looks like a tiny tree. Some of these plants might grow too big later on and I might have to switch them out. I also added a little orchid and also a little begonia. So I'm just finishing the terrarium right now and I'm pretty happy about how it looks. I got a little pink nerve plant in there for a little pop of color. Kind of hard to see in this picture, but now I'm going to spray it all down like crazy because I need to saturate it. All these plants are going to need a good amount of water at the beginning, just as they're trying to adjust to their new home. Alright, so I pretty much just went crazy spraying for so long. And then I wanted to wipe out the terrarium. Oh, wait, I gotta spray some more. Here I am spraying some more. Oh, okay. Now I'm gonna start wiping out the terrarium because I really want to see what it looks like when it's not all fogged up with water. So here I am wiping and wiping some more. I think I'm gonna wipe a little more, and a little more. Yep, a little more. Not done yet. Gonna wipe one more time. So I'm pretty much finished with the terrarium, and I was pretty happy with how it turned out. My kids made terrariums too, and I'll show you those at the end. This terrarium, because it's an open terrarium, it's going to have to be watered more than a closed terrarium would. I'll probably have to water it at least once every other day, depending on the weather. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. These are some different examples of terrariums that my kids made. Succulent terrarium, gotta leave the top off on this one. This one's another little tropical one that hangs. And my youngest did this little tropical terrarium, very cute. So this is an open terrarium. I used tropical plants, and so it's gonna need more moisture. You could do the same kind of terrarium with succulents. You'd need a little bit different soil and a little bit less water. This is a succulent terrarium. This one, it has a different soil. I'll go over that type of soil in a different video. And it needs to be watered maybe once a week. This was made by Zay. This one was made by my teenager. It has tropical plants, and the soil is for tropical plants. It has to be watered pretty often because it's hanging and it doesn't have a lot of soil. It's a smaller terrarium and it's open. This is a closed terrarium, but it's not sealed, so it actually won't have its own water cycle. There's no seal on the inside, which means water is going to escape. It's going to evaporate. So this will still have to be sprayed off maybe once a week. So here's your different types. I haven't showed you a cactus terrarium, but that's another option. So yeah, there you go. Thanks. Yeah, don't forget to subscribe and give me a thumbs up. Also, please let me know what my next video should be. What do you want to hear about? Thanks. Take care. Bye.